Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. In July, tonight's guest was sworn in as the 7th president of Bronx Community College, one of the borough's 3 CUNY institutions. He comes to BCC after a highly successful tenure as president at CUNY's Gutman College in Manhattan and community colleges in Arizona, Florida, Georgia, and Missouri. We'll talk about all different things, and we'll talk with him about his vision for BCC and how it links up with the illustrious history of the college since its founding 68 years ago. Most importantly, we'll discuss what the opportunities are that a BCC education can mean for you, for Bronx students. It's our pleasure to introduce him to you. Please join me in welcoming to Bronx Talk and to the Bronx, Dr. Larry Johnson. Dr. Johnson, nice to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It really is nice. You know, you get somebody who's going to be responsible for us, for our students, for our people. It's just our pleasure at BronxNet and Bronx Talk to present you to the people of the Bronx. Let's start by people learning about you. Talk about CUNY's Gutman College. I really had never heard of it, and I'm a CUNY graduate, et cetera, et cetera. You were as a leader and faculty member, as I mentioned, at community colleges in different states. What about those experiences, especially at Gutman, since it was a CUNY school, that were good conditioners for your new work at Bronx Community College?
Gary, that's a really good question, and thank you again for inviting me. I'm really humbled to be here. So when I think about the work that prepared me to be at Bronx Community College, certainly Gutman was a part of that pathway, but I want to go all the way back, if I can, all the way back.
Here we go.
To, being 13, the work began when my mother, at the time, she was 33, I was 12, and she was enrolled at the community college in Georgia, pursuing her nursing degree.
The plot thickens.
Yes, but unfortunately, she passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And what that did for me, it really helped me to understand the value of the community college to provide persons like my mother, single parent mom, opportunities to work in the daytime and go to school at night. And that really became the driving force that really inspires the work that I do. So every college that I've worked at, that you've mentioned in Florida, Georgia, Missouri, most recently Arizona, and now in New York, it really has been with the idea of how can I help persons who are like my mother. So Gutman was very much a community college that served students of the Bronx. So I was already familiar with the Bronx actually before getting here, because many of our students come from the Bronx. I understood much of what they experienced, many of the disparities that, in terms of students not being as prepared as they're leaving from their respective communities. And we were, I would say, that agent of change to be able to provide those students the success that they needed. And that's really all of higher education and students that are enrolled in community colleges from, say, diverse communities. So that kind of was the impetus that would bring me here today.
You brought up something that I think is fascinating. Now, I'm a Lehman graduate. What is the difference in approach from the administration and the faculty when you're dealing with a 2-year college versus a 4-year college? You've really honed your experience on community colleges. Why, and what's the value of that? Right. As opposed to, and nobody's talking down the 4 years, but the 2 years provide something.
There really shouldn't be a difference per se. When I talk to students at a community college and faculty at community colleges, they have the same, if not more, credentials oftentimes, but there is a subtle nuance. When you look at the community colleges, we are preparing students to go directly to work, which is a pathway, or students that desire to move on to a 4-year college or university. So the experiences may be different. So we may have an automotive faculty member, for example, who comes to the role for more so industry level experience versus a faculty member who may be an English faculty teaching composition and rhetoric, who may have gone on to pursue bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. But all of it is essential to ensuring that the student leaves the college with the knowledge that they need and really understand how that knowledge applies to the world of work.
We're going to talk about the academic programs a little later in the program, but on the BCC website, it talks about 3 years after graduation, the average salary they're making is $43,000. And in this day and age where there's so much pressure, economic pressure, we all know what's going on out there, that's significant. And then 5 years, you're making $51,000 according to the numbers. So what you say about leaving and getting a job, and of course, which is why you do so much vocational training. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the history of Bronx Community College. As I mentioned, founded in 1957. You're the 7th president. What is in that legacy of 68 years that provides a foundation for what you're doing now and then, of course, into the future?
I would say resilience. The college was formed out of resilience. It was formed from a clarion call to make sure that everyone had access. And access is, I would say, a key word that we always think about, access to affordable, high-quality education. So that's what I would say. Those are the values, and that is what we think about when we think of BCC. You know, it's a resilient college community. It is a resilient student body, and I think that embodies really the ethos of the work that we do every day.
And another distinction about the college is its incredible campus. Now, I wasn't aware of the numbers, but 34 buildings, 45 acres. It's among the largest campuses in the whole CUNY system. Many people will, like I do, remember it used to be NYU. Talk about the facilities, and when you walked onto now I don't know what's going on at Gutman, I don't know what's going on at anybody else, but when you walked in and thought and saw this gorgeous campus and thought of the opportunities for you and for, of course, the students, must have been pretty cool.
No, it was pretty amazing. So to move from a vertical campus in downtown Manhattan to now this sprawling, 50 or more acres of campus, it reminded me of how fortunate we are. You know, we say that we are the crown jewel. We sit at the top point of the Bronx, and that represents just the beauty of the campus. I mean, you're driving on the campus with beautiful foliage, certainly now during the fall, and it represents the change, it represents the educational opportunities, and it really is the doorway to a respective career, and I think that it embodies that in its architecture.
And you know, and I hadn't been on, I was on the campus, I guess, last spring, and when I walked, I hadn't been there in a while, I said, my goodness, imagine, and it's not hard for me to imagine that, living in the Bronx, coming from one of Burnside Avenue or from Morrisania, and walking onto this campus and say, wait a minute, now you can take a deep breath, now you can think about yourself, now you can really learn and all that kind of stuff. One more item about the history, and I wanted to bring him up because he's very important to BronxNet television. Dr. Roscoe Brown is one of your predecessors, a visionary. Talk to me about his legacy. Now here's a photo of him when he was on BronxTalk way back in 26 years ago. But talk about Dr. Brown, his legacy as Tuskegee Airman, et cetera, et cetera.
So I believe I'm standing on those shoulders. You know, if it were for him, when not for him, there would not be me in terms of this role. But understanding the role that he played in the community, the role that he played in providing greater access to our young people, that was critically important. The role that he played in just nationally being recognized as a thought leader, a thought partner, and I stand on that. So every day that I drive onto the campus, I think about everyone that came before me, what they had to endure during times of racial oppression, during times where things were different, but they persevered and they weathered those storms. And it gives me the motivation that if he could do it, certainly the climate is almost similar, right?
I was going to say, you say the days of, we all know what's going on.
Right.
Now.
But out of a spirit of resilience that this campus was birthed and it has grown, I feel that every day that I walk on the campus.
When you were in Arizona, you were in Phoenix, and let's say you established what you called a neighborhood college with a community-first approach. I'm going to make the easy assumption that's the same approach you're going to have here. What does that mean, and what does that mean for the students and the campus at BCC?
No, that's a great question. So when I think of the community college, oftentimes we forget the word community. we should be in the community. So as I think of myself as a community college president, I should be engaging with every aspect of the community, meeting with our community-based organizations, speaking with our superintendents, meeting with our elected officials, much of what I've done within the first 100 days of being at the college. So that is critically important to the work that we do. And our community needs to know that this is a campus that is open to them. Bringing the community back on the campus with programming and ensuring that we are thought partners and thought leaders in that work. So as we are a community college, we have to continue to reimagine ways in which we can serve the community better. And that's what Bronx Community College will continue to do.
You know, I really like a lot of people come, it doesn't matter if you're CEO of an organization or president of a college, they come in and they have a new vision. Okay, we're going to but you really feel rooted in the history of the Bronx, and frankly, for a lot of us Bronxites, it's really, really important to do. One of the things that I noted, and I was not aware of this, is the only college in New York State and one of the only campuses in the United States that designated as a National Historic Landmark because of its architecturally significant buildings. The Gould Library is one example. Are activities in there? Do you run classes in there? What do you use that incredible building for?
Yes.
It's gorgeous. If you've never been there, folks, treat yourself. Yeah. Go ahead.
So the Gould Memorial Library it's a place where we offer, there's programming that takes place on the lower level of the library. So we use that space when we welcome the community in for commencement ceremonies. Our high school commencement ceremonies are held there. But the beautiful part of it is what happens in the rotunda. The rotunda, when you look up and you see this edifice, it makes you think that you step back into the Renaissance period, which is my time period of study.
Oh, really? How
absolutely, absolutely. So I love the times of Caravaggio and the paintings and Rembrandt, and you get that ethos as you look up in the rotunda and you see all the metopes and all of the great statuesque figures. So that is a beautiful facility that we are continuing to look to make sure that it remains there, make sure that we are respecting the integrity of that facility.
Boy, did you land in the right place. No, that was an editorial comment, folks. Sorry. But let's just talk about enrollment now. How is enrollment? Is that one, and I know I've been around the college scene for a long time, is that one of the agendas now to increase enrollment? Are we satisfied? Where is that at? And then, of course, how does that develop to bring students into the college, which is one of the things we want to do on this program.
Right. So nationally, enrollment at all colleges, 2- and 4-year colleges, were impacted by the pandemic. And that's every community college, even in the city of New York. But we're beginning to see an increase. So most recently, we've seen an upwards of 67% in terms of our enrollment fall to fall. And that is a trajectory that we want
67%?
67%. So
we're 6 to 7%.
Yeah, we're around 7,000 students now. But there's a major opportunity. Pre-pandemic, I would say about 10, 15 years ago, our enrollment was about 12, 13,000. So we've lost a significant number of students. And what we're doing is we're now beginning to think about, so where are those populations of students that we have not engaged? Where are those communities that we have not engaged? So we'll be looking at areas such as Yonkers and Mount Vernon and Co-op City and in the Bronx to make sure that we're providing access to all New Yorkers.
You know, that is really fascinating to me because, you know, we have lived, those of us who did live through the pandemic, we've lived through it, okay, we did it, but the effect of it, having people not come to college, and now when I look at the structure of of New York and our society now, I feel like the need is even greater because, okay, people, you know, were scared, they stopped working, they did entrepreneurial stuff, but, you know, there's a limit to that, and especially people in the Bronx, especially now with food insecurity, I mean, we know all about all that stuff, then this is really an important solution. This is really a good time for people to come to college, and you have the space, clearly.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just talk about the students themselves. You learned a lot about Bronx students from Gutman. You know, I know this is really inside baseball here. I know when I talk, people, they teach you to talk to one person. How do you visualize? And I visualize people of the Bronx, and that's who I talk to. When you visualize the students, who are you reaching out to? Who are the people who should say, oh, that's me, I want to go to BCC?
Absolutely. Great question. So we're thinking of every student that is of high school age that's matriculating from high school, and we're also thinking about the returning adult. So absolutely, yes, students that
very, very important.
Very important, very important. So most students will transfer from their high schools to Bronx Community College and local schools, but there's an opportunity. What we're seeing in data is that there's a decline in birth rate of your traditional age students. So what that has our teams and our colleges are thinking about is, so where are the gaps in terms of what the employers need? And we're beginning to now look at that 25 to 55-year-old student, which is the New York State Opportunity Program, which was recently announced by Governor Hochul. We're beginning to think about how can we retool and reskill, but also support that student that is the first time in college, that is the first generation college student, would they help them find their pathway to a 4-year college or to a skills trade?
It was one of the things on my list. Talk about that program that Governor Hochul signed in.
Absolutely. So the New York State Opportunity Program, it provides tuition assistance for persons who are 25 to 55 in select careers, and we have most of those careers. When you think about education, when you think about health science programs, when you think about those areas that will help support the vibrancy of what New York is, this is providing the social upward mobility for those persons once they've completed their programs of study, and that is what this program essentially is really about, helping upskill New Yorkers.
You came on board, and this has been done in other colleges, this whole idea of a spirit tunnel tradition, and you did it for the first time this year at Bronx Community College. What is it? Why is it? We have a little video of it. Talk all about it, and why? Why are we doing this?
So the why was to instill a sense of college pride. I wanted to make sure that students felt excited. I wanted them to see the faculty and staff celebrating them, because this is the first of many times that we'll celebrate them. The next time we'll celebrate many of them will be at commencement. So this was the impetus of that, is to get them to start thinking about completion at the beginning of their academic journey. So I'll tell you where I got it from, honestly.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you think of if you think of the New York Jennifer Hudson show, so as people leave her show, they go down this tunnel and people are clapping for them, and sometimes they may dance and do these type of things. So I thought about how great would it be to celebrate our students in that way.
And the other thing is, you know, again, we both think about state of mind of generally young Bronxites. Starting college, you're not sure, many of them coming out of the workforce, maybe took a time between high school and the time they started college, so they're a little bit nervous, and then they walk in. I'm going to get teary-eyed here. And then they walk in and they're celebrated. Like, this is a moment. Congratulations for doing that. I love the idea. I do want to go from the sublime to the ridiculous. In this climate now, and it's happening right now, is the whole food insecurity with SNAP. We have people who are really concerned about that. Just talk about because you can't pretend it doesn't exist, especially Bronx is the biggest user of SNAP in the nation. To talk a little bit about providing for students aside from the academic programs, which we didn't talk about yet. We're going to do that in a moment.
Yeah. So at BCC, we believe in the holistic development and support of students. So when you think of BCC, you can't think of BCC without thinking of BCC Cares and our food pantry. So we have a
BCC Cares.
BCC Cares. So we have a full, comprehensive food pantry that provides our students with the essentials that they need to support them while they're not only on campus, but also when they leave the institution as well. Because we know that if a student is hungry, they can't focus on academics. That is second nature to them. So we want to make sure that we're providing those essential needs for them so that they can be better in their classroom.
Every student can access it.
Every student.
You know, there's a school in the South Bronx, and they run a hydroponic farm in the school, and there's a big sign which you will agree with: a hungry student can't learn. And it certainly is true. I also want to ask you about the immigrant population. Obviously, there's threats. Government, federal, state, local will deal with all of that. Do you have a vision of that, or how you what you think about it. I'm just curious because there are going to be things that you and I and we can't fully control. But how do you view the situation for immigrant students? We're hearing stories that some of the kids are not going to school because they're scared or because their parents are scared.
Right. So we follow a protocol similar to the university's provided protocol for each of our institutions, and that is what we follow. In terms of if we were to experience ICE agents on campus, we have protocol that we have to follow to make sure that our college community is safe and to make sure that our students are safe. So this is an issue that's highly discussed throughout academia. There are a number of students that are at our institutions who are on visas, and I know that they are scared and they fear because of just the climate. But we want to make sure that we are ensuring that we're following the law, we're complying with the city, state, and federal law to make sure that we are teaching our students, but making sure that they're also safe.
I guess the message is BCC is a safe place.
It is a safe place. Yes.
That's what the message is. All right, I've delayed enough. Let's talk about academic programs. We pulled some of the ones that are highlighted on your website. There are over 40 academic programs, including automotive technology, nuclear medicine, allied health sciences, cybersecurity, business and media, digital film production. These are things that people can take and get work and get employment. Right?
Absolutely.
Talk about the theory behind the academic programs that you have.
So when we think about academic programs at community colleges, we think about it in varied pathways. This traditional pathway is the student wants to go directly to a four-year college, which Lehman College is one of the colleges that most of our students matriculate to. But we also think about the student who needs to go directly to work. For many of our students, they can't delay another year or two before they can work. They need to take care of themselves. They need to take care of their family. So I'm really happy and grateful that we have faculty who are always thinking about what will make the difference in the lives of the students. So many of the programs that you mentioned will lead to higher wage jobs and family sustaining wages. And that's really the operative term. Family sustaining. We want to make sure that students leave our nursing program, our rad tech, our nuclear medicine, and we know that those are in-demand careers, and we know that lives can be changed forever. I
remember doing a show, I'd have to count, you probably could look up how many years ago, about the introduction of the automotive program, and I thought it was brilliant because every one of us, if you have a car, it's going to break down. And I can't tell you how many times I say to myself, boy, I wish I knew something about it. And students graduate, and that's the kind of thing they can get jobs right away.
Absolutely. I think that we also have to talk about sometimes the stigma that people have about the community college. So because you are enrolled in an automotive program does not make you less than. It is a different skill set. It is a different critical and application of how you think about the world, how you think about employment. So I think that that's one of the nuances. But as you think about how the automotive industry is growing, you have your EV, you have now these autonomous vehicles, of which we are Waymo, which just on our campus really debuting some of those opportunities that I saw in Arizona. I mean, a lot of this was happening in Arizona already. We're now seeing it come to the East Coast, but our students are being immersed into this type of technology. And how great will they be after they've completed our automotive program? Because
not only will they be able to, frankly, work on cars, they could be the people ultimately who design the cars.
Absolutely.
And I had to laugh because when you use the word critical thinking, I was thinking of the other meaning of critical. It's critical that you learn how to fix a car, or at least you know how it works. I can't tell you how many times it would have bailed me out along the way. Let's talk about faculty. When you look for faculty, how do you make a decision, these are the kinds of people that we want? So I guess there's twofold. One is the faculty that's there and tenured, et cetera, and then also potentially younger or newer people that you're going to bring in.
So when you think about faculty at any institution, you want to make sure that you have faculty who are skilled in the craft or skilled in the discipline, but you also want to think about the culture that you want to continue to grow and create at the institution. So when we think about faculty at BCC, we have some of the most amazing, innovative, world-renowned faculty who are researchers, who are also in industry, who are bringing that skill set, but someone that understands the Bronx, someone that understands the students of the Bronx. So that, to me, is critically important. So yes, you may have all of the other things, smarts, skill set, but do you understand what it means to work in an urban environment?
You know, I really like that because people of the Bronx feel like nobody knows them. And if they go to a place and they're working with faculty who wants to work with them, then you can do a lot better. Let's talk about, you know, a lot of students now. Again, I'm going to give away something. When I went to Lehman College, it was free, and which is kind of a remarkable thing. And I remember when they introduced a $75 activities fee, there was a protest. My goodness, God forbid we should pay $75. A CUNY education is still more affordable than any other education, without question. But talk about the cost, and students will say, "Oh, goodness gracious, I can't spend another penny." Talk about the affordability of BCC and the fact that 9 out of 10 graduates are free of federal loans, which is a big thing.
Absolutely. So most community colleges in the City University of New York are affordable. When you think of students that are, if they are earning Pell Grants, if they are earning TAP, if they're earning Excelsior and all of the different scholarships, most students will leave institutions debt-free because they have all of the resources that they need. And if they have a certain socioeconomic profile, that also allows them to earn or to receive an additional, I would say, Pell Grants and dollars to support their education. So education at BCC is truly affordable. However, sometimes we equate the affordability with the lack of quality. So while we're affordable, the quality, I would argue, is better than or is just as good as any four-year college or university.
Well, you've convinced me. We're essentially out of time. I'll give you last sentence. You've got 30 seconds. What's your final message to the people in the Bronx about Bronx Community College?
So Bronx Community College is the college on top of a hill. We are
there you
here. We are ready to serve you. We're ready to invite you to the college. We are a college that's looking to grow, and we're certainly looking to have thought partners in the community, but those who have not thought about college, those who for college may be out of reach, I look forward to serving you and to be your president.
And deserve the opportunity that college provides.
Absolutely.
Dr. Johnson, welcome to the Bronx.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And that will conclude tonight's program. We thank our producer, Stephen Powell, who sat in today, our BronxNet production and editing crew. And of course, it's about you too. You heard what we're talking about here, the people of the Bronx. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Don't go away.